did stuff without a scare.
This defense sucks. You are a professional team. Act like one, for God's sakes.
One of the greats. Buffone was a bear. He was a Chicago Bear. Now at the barroom for year 9, knowing winning is the bottom line. John Buffone continues the legacy. He's got Doug's pedigree.
If you look at this team and this quarterback and this coach, if it's not going to be now, when?
And John does it with 2 pros, Alyssa Barbieri and Danny Shimon. Buffone, 55 years old Bear, covering all the team's affairs. Buffone, 55 years old Bear,
Hello and welcome to another edition of Buffone 55. I am your host, John Buffone. A lot has happened since the last time I was here talking to you guys, but all of a sudden the Bears are 10-4 atop the NFC North, and they're gunning for the division. They're gunning for a playoff spot, and I can't believe we're talking about meaningful ball in December. It's been a long time since we could discuss that, and to help me get this conversation kicked off, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Alyssa Barbieri. Alyssa, been a long time since we've talked about some Chicago Bears. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I mean, it's crazy to think earlier in the season when, you, me, and Danny were sitting here making our predictions that the Bears would be 10-4 and there are still 3 games left on the schedule. It is just absolutely insane. But again, with Ben Johnson, he just makes the insane seem just believable and realistic for the Bears. And he has really turned this team around, and it's been fun. Like, when's the last time you could say that? That's the first for this show since I've been on here, at least, that we're covering. This is our first winning season, John, since I've been here. So I think the curse is finally broken.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves quite yet. They will have a winning season. Let's not get ahead of ourselves quite yet. Danny has the night off, and filling in for Danny, we like to play the classics around here. So we're bringing in the old man, Aldo Gandia. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. The rehab and recovery is going well. As many people know, I had a stroke on the Monday, the week of Thanksgiving. I was working on a video, and all of a sudden my hand is doing things that it should be doing. And so the rehab has been helping me tremendously. I'm able to pick up a pen now. I wasn't able to do that. There it is. And so progress is coming every single day. I get out there and work on it. So thank you, everyone, for your best wishes, your prayers, and by the time we win a Super Bowl, I'll be 100% recovered.
I like the sound of that, and we can't tell you how excited we are to have you on this show. Feeling good enough to jump on Buffone 55. We got a lot to talk about. Let's just jump right into it. Ben Johnson, the head coach, says we're a good football team. Well, that's good to know. We've been seeing that all season. But we're going to talk about how good we really think these Bears are. Now, one person on this show had the Bears going 10-7 this year, and they're actually going to exceed that, I'm predicting. But I had high hopes for this team coming in to this season. So I'm going to start with you, Alyssa. How good are they? Oh, Aldo, you are obviously back putting this in the rundown. Are they? Is it reasonable to talk Super Bowl?
I saw that Super Bowl. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. I mean, it sounds fun, and like if they made the playoffs, like let's go there. I mean, but why the heck not? I mean, I think when you look at the NFL this season, there's a lot of parity. You know, there's not like really one dominant team that you think is going to win it all, or like two teams that you can say for certain they're going to be in the Super Bowl. So I feel like if there were a year for a team like the Bears, you know, to come out of nowhere and to record an improbable Super Bowl win, it would be this year. But again, I think it's too soon to start talking Super Bowl. I want them to make the playoffs first. But I mean, Ben Johnson said that they are a good football team, and I agree. I mean, the record doesn't lie, and I don't care what people want to say about the teams that they've beaten, because they're not just beating bad teams, they're beating good teams. And when you look at this game, and I know we're going to get into the Packers game later in the show, you know, this is a big one. If they go out there and win on Saturday night, I mean, that's just going to be another absolute statement win for them. But when you look at this team, you know, Ben Johnson, I think it starts up front. What he's been able to accomplish with this team in such a short amount of time is nothing short of incredible. And then you have a young quarterback in Caleb Williams who's improving and getting better. You have a top 2 rushing attack. You have weapons. Yes, there are some injuries, which I know we'll talk about later as well. And you have a defense that is the best at taking the football away in the NFL. They've had the best defense taking the ball away, the best turnover differential for weeks now. That is a winning formula. So why not the Bears?
Although it's incredible, like the trajectory of how greedy football fans can get, because 6-7 months ago, we're talking about, man, if they can just, you know, show improvement, you know, you go 7-10, 8-9, but you have the offense going, that's going to be a good season. We're going to be good with that. And then all of a sudden they start winning games and we're like, ooh, the playoffs, they're in the hunt. They're in that third column. They're in the hunt. And then all of a sudden they keep winning games. We're like, whoa, playoffs are a real possibility. That this is going pretty well for us. And then now it's like, we can win the division and we're gonna go. I'm on that wagon too. I'm not telling anyone not to feel that way. I love we can get in over our heads. I love that we can get excited. I love that we are watching football in the middle of December, and it really means something. Each one of these games for the rest of the season is going to mean something. The Niners and the Lions, oh my, there's something to actually look forward to in this season. And I can't tell you how refreshing that is, because in previous years, we've been talking about mock drafts in October. We've been talking about free agencies in November, and we've been talking about coaching candidates in December. We finally have something to actually wrap our minds around that is fun to talk about. That we don't have to talk about 2028 or 2029. We can actually talk about 2025 and 26 now. I'm not saying this is, you know, ironclad lock. I'm not saying they should do another Super Bowl shuffle video right now, but it's just fun to be able to talk about this, see the progression of this team, see the progression of the quarterback, and seeing what the impact of this coach has actually had on a franchise. So, Aldo, with all that being said, how good is this team, and how high are your hopes?
Well, you know, Ben Johnson said months ago, we will be playing our best football in December. And clearly against the Cleveland Browns, they were playing their best football of the season. That was a complimentary football victory. Special teams started off great with Devin Duvernay's outstanding run. In the second offensive series, the Bears scored. They were up 14-0. In the second half, they took complete control of the game. The defense played an outstanding game while they're still missing key players on the defense. So that gives me a lot of hope. And then you look at the game before at Green Bay, we gave them a real battle. We lost on the final play of the game because of a poor pass by Caleb Williams, but we could have walked out of Lambeau with a win. So I'm feeling like this team is trending up. And I understand that of the playoff eligible teams right now, the 7 teams in the NFC, the Bears have the weakest strength of schedule. There's no doubt about it. They played some weak teams, but as J2K said in the chat, or Cliff, I think it was, we don't pick our schedule. It happens. So we've beaten those lesser teams now, and I also understand, according to ESPN, that our strength of victory is the lowest of all teams, where we're at about 300 because a lot of those victories against lesser teams were close marginal victories. It was the Iceman coming through at the end and so forth. I understand all that, but I keep going back to what Ben said. we're going to be playing our best football in December, which is why this game on Saturday against the depleted Green Bay Packers team in our home field is going to be the biggest barometer. I feel that if we win that game in a fashion by 10 points or something like that, we could get into the playoffs on a multi-game winning streak, beating the 49ers on the road, beating the Lions. I'm being hopeful, and I know I sound like a fan, but hey, this has all the makings of a magical season. This is not the Matt Nagy 2008 Chicago Bears. This is the Ben Johnson Chicago Bears. So I'm feeling really hopeful right now.
Listen, I'm always a stickler when I think about like, oh man, coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And even I remember when we were doing this show back in 2018, I was devastated. I think it was the Giants game they ended up blowing that year in 2018, and
I was at that game.
It may have cost them a first round bye because they were still taking the first two seeds, and they could have been the number 2 seed if they would have won that game. And so maybe I'm just a dweller when it comes to these kind of things, because I'm thinking, man, if they wouldn't have blown that first week game against the Vikings, they would have been in the driver's seat. Now, listen, a lot of these games this year could have went the other way, so I'm not going to get too upset about that, because they pulled out a lot of close wins this year. So as we look over this schedule aside, because I remember people talking about how hard the Bears schedule was back in August, and because of the NFL being a league of attrition and teams are ebbs and flows, it just is what it is. And the people are talking about the strength of schedule for New England. Doesn't matter if you're the number 1 seed and you beat a bunch of lesser opponents. Big deal. You're still in the driver's seat when it comes to the playoffs. And so if the Bears, listen, their metal's going to get tested these next 3 weeks. They got 3 good opponents coming up. They need to win. They need to win 1 to get in. If they want to win the division, they really need to win this Saturday, most likely. But this all gets back to my point that I can't believe that we're actually able to talk about this. We're able to talk about the last 3 games, and they got to get 1, and then they're going to get in. We're talking about playoff positioning. I'm on that little ESPN playoff predictor where you hit the wins, the losses to see what the scenarios go. And usually I'm just doing that because I want to see what some of the game. I'm like, oh, that'll be a fun game to watch. Like, oh, that'll be. I hope I'm around for that game. Now I'm thinking like, where are the Bears going to play? Could they be hosting the Packers? Are they going to Green Bay? And to be honest, a lot of the scenarios I do either have the Bears going to Green Bay or the Packers going to Chicago. So I have them in that 2-7 matchup either way, whether they're the 7 or the 2. Really hoping they're the 2. But as we continue to look over this team, I don't want to be, listen, we're trying to be realists here, but we do get pie in the sky. But as you look at these last 3 games, Aldo, I'll start with you. What are your concerns about this? Because they got a tough sled coming up.
Well, of course, it's pressuring the quarterback, and we've been doing fairly well at that, but we'd love to see more sacks come, and therefore that will help increase our turnover margin. With the best, as Alyssa said earlier in the show, we're leading the NFL in turnovers. So if we can get a pass rush that can get the opposing team behind the sticks, facing a 2nd and 16, 2nd and 13, 3rd and 15, whatever it is, that's going to help this team tremendously. Secondly, we still have to have some concerns about Caleb Williams, because he has to put together top-notch games week after week, particularly if you're going to get into the playoffs. You can't just rely on the defense giving you half the field. Caleb has to come through, and heck, that pass that he threw to DJ Moore kind of told me that this guy's confidence is sky high. First of all, to have the cojones to throw that ball, and secondly, to place it in a manner where he knew for certain, he said in press conferences, and Ben Johnson agreed, he knew that he threw that ball in a way that would not be intercepted. So if he can continue that type of play, that would be fantastic. And I know I'm going to steal Alyssa's thunder here, because I bet she's going to say this, is injuries. We can't afford any more injuries. We got to get the injured guys back. We got to get them healthy. We're going to talk about injuries in a little while, but that is a major concern, no doubt.
Alyssa, listen, I'm looking over this season, and I don't see a juggernaut in the NFL, let alone the NFC. So if there's ever a a weird year where Mahomes isn't going to be in the playoffs. Burrow's not going to be in the playoffs. Lamar might not be in the playoffs. And New England's the number 1 seed maybe in the AFC, depending on how things shake out, although Buffalo looked really good. You look at the AFC and you have the Seahawks and the Rams. They're great, but they also have warts. And so in a year where there isn't a whole lot of like, well, that's the head over heels favorite, we still have some concerns though for the Bears, right?
Yeah, I mean, I want to echo what Aldo said, because I think my biggest concern when you look at the roster is the defensive line, pass rush, especially when you get into the playoffs when you're going to be facing some really good quarterbacks. Yeah, they had 5 sacks against the Browns and Shedeur Sanders last week, but, the pass rush, there's been a lot to be desired there, and you're really going to need them to step up to make things easier on defense. But also, I do agree that Caleb's going to have to also step his play up, and he has been making progress. He's not perfect, but he does come through when they need him. But when you kind of look at the concerns, I'm kind of concerned about, I don't know why, but like if the Lions were to sneak in the playoffs, I don't know why. Maybe I still have PTSD from that week 2 game, and maybe like my fears will subside after they play in week 18 if the Bears are able to come away with a win. But yeah, this final stretch of games, I think, will not only be a big test for them, because if the Bears beat the Packers on Saturday and the Lions lose to the Steelers, the Bears are in. They're in the playoffs, which is crazy to think. But I think that this final stretch of games against the Packers, the Niners, and the Lions, I think it'll be a really good test for them, a really good learning experience as well, because those are the teams most likely that they'll be facing in the playoffs, and they'll be able to step their game up. But and the injuries, like Aldo said, he was right with that one. Just as they're starting to get healthier on defense outside of Kyler Gordon, now here come some of the injuries on offense, specifically with Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. I think the most concerning one, I know we're going to get to this a little later, is probably Rome. But I think that outside of that, it's maybe my biggest concern is just the past. I guess I'm like just kind of nervous about like what's happened in the past before, which I know I got to stop, because this is a new Bears team. Ben Johnson's running the show. These are not the same old Bears. I think that they have a real opportunity this year in a season where, if you look at the 4 top teams, the top 2 teams in each conference, 3 of them are being led by second-year quarterbacks, including Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, and then you have Matthew Stafford there. So, it's just crazy when you look at this. You're not going to have Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow in there. So it's going to be – I think it's going to be a really fun postseason, and I would absolutely love if the Bears got to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, and big thanks to Lutz the reporter. Bears winning a blowout. Vegas line it as a gift. I think that Vegas line right now is the Bears are 1.5 point underdogs at home. Yeah. And so so they are the betting underdogs. You can go ahead and grab that money line for probably a pretty penny. But Alyssa, I absolutely agree with you. Actually, I was going to say most of my opinions are not based in facts. They're based in just raw emotions. If you've listened to this show long enough, you realize that nothing I say is really based on any factual substance. It's just what I happen to be feeling that day. And so I 100% agree with you that it's like that PTSD, like when's the balloon gonna pop? When's the other shoe gonna drop? When am I gonna wake up from this dream? I fell asleep in August and I'm just now waking up and then, oh crap, this actually didn't happen. So I that's my fear. I don't want this to end. So, but I'm just thinking like, oh man, we've been on the right side of this, and I'm not used to being on the right side of a lot of these things as a Bears fan. When's that going to happen? But I'm gonna ride this as long as I can, because it's been a really fun season, and the Bears are coming off a 31-3 victory over the Browns. And I'm going to go around the horn and ask what did we learn from this game? But I'm actually going to go first, because my opinion of this is they beat a team that they're supposed to beat. And that's what good teams do. They went in and they were the betting favorites, and they handled business. They didn't have to take this down to the wire. They didn't play with their food too much. They didn't let the Browns hang around. They went in full throttle and they beat this team, a team they were supposed to beat, and they beat them handily. The quarterback had a good game. DeAndre Swift had a good game. Obviously, Rome Odunze wasn't playing, so Luther Burden steps up. He's a little banged up now, but he showed up. DJ Moore, they got some chemistry with DJ Moore. So overall, this was just a way of saying, hey, good teams take care of bad teams and don't let them back into the game. That's exactly what happened. 31-3, and you can use that. Listen, I know it's the Browns, but we don't get the Bears fans don't get to say that very often. Like, oh, we beat them because it's only them because they're bad. That's usually what people say about our team. Usually, whenever they're the cheap victory, like, well, it's only the Bears. We don't get to say, well, it's only the Browns very often, or it's only this, it's only that. So let's think about that, and that's what I think that's a big takeaway from this game. Aldo, what did you take from this game?
Well, let me get myself back on camera here. It's this is hard to do with one hand.
You're doing great.
Thank you. I think that what I learned is that the team is developing a killer instinct. You know, back in October, they might have allowed this Cleveland Browns team, even as bad as they are, to at least inch closer. But this game was never in doubt. In fact, on social media, on X, I was kind of criticizing Ben Johnson a little bit because they were up 14-0, and he's going for it on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, as opposed to pinning the Browns back. He was getting cocky with the play calling, not running the ball when you only needed a yard and throwing it in 2 consecutive downs. And that's like, we all have this, syndrome of, being Bears fans, that we're afraid we're going to screw up leads and stuff. But I learned that this team can be trusted to hold on to a lead against inferior opponents. And I've also learned that DeAndre Swift, and we're going to talk about him more later, but DeAndre Swift can run with power. The way he broke through some of those tackles was very impressive. I learned that Luther Burden has really good hands. I think he and Loveland, the 2 rookies, might have the best hands on this entire team. Now, both of them have had drops this season. In fact, Burden had one against Cleveland. But those guys generally are very reliable when making catches. And I think both of those guys are going to be great stars in the NFL for years to come. I also learned that the Bears have depth at linebacker. We're going to look at some DeMarco Jackson plays in a minute. And boy, the way this guy has stepped in, it's been a revelation. And look at all the injuries we've had in the defensive backfield, yet we're getting big plays out of guys. So, gosh, I guess overall, what I'd like to say is I learned that I've been too tough on Ryan Poles. All he had to do, perhaps, was correct the original sin he made when he got the job, which was hiring Matt Eberflus.
Hey, it's I'd rather listen. I don't even have words. I'm just thinking of what we were talking about with Matt Eberflus last year and talking about Ben Johnson this year. It's like it's night and day, and Dallas fans are getting their full Matt Eberflus experience down there now. Alyssa, let's not talk about too much of the past. What did you learn about this team against the Browns, however?
First off, I just want to say it was really nice for once just to not have to worry about the Bears. Like, that was fun. I mean, I was a little in the first half. I'm like, I felt like they should have been up like 28-0 at halftime or something like that. But outside of that, I was like, that was a very fun game. They did what a good team is supposed to do and beat up on a bad team. And I like watching that game. I was like, the Bears are playing the 2024 Bears right now. And it was really nice to be on the other side. And I think when I look at this, I mean, Aldo said exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking about the depth that they have on the roster and how many guys have been able to step up in the face of injury, whether it's rookies like, Luther Burden stepping up this week when Roma Dunze was out, or, on defense, obviously, with DeMarco Jackson, or even Nishan Wright, who's been starting most of the season, but he stepped up. CJ Gardner-Johnson has been one of the best additions, I think, in the entire NFL midseason this year. And I think also when you look at this team, they're very good at bouncing back from adversity. After a loss, if you look at, I'm going to ignore week 1 because they should have won that. After the Lions lost, they went on, not only did they win the next game, they won the next 4. Then after they lost to the Ravens, they won the next 5. So now after losing to the Packers, they have won. We'll see if that can amount to anything. But I think that that says a lot about what Ben Johnson has done with this locker room. They're bought in. They know that they're good. They know that they can win, and they are determined. And I love that they keep wanting to prove everyone wrong because everyone keeps doubting them, even as they're sitting there 10-4, the number 2 seed in the NFC, first place in the NFC North. I mean, I think they like being the underdog. And like Aldo said, that killer instinct, that's real.
Yeah, they have all bought into this culture, which is awesome. They are all feeding off of Ben Johnson and each other, and it's awesome to watch. And during Sunday's game, I'm watching it, but the Bears are blowing out the Browns, so I found myself I have multiple screens in my basement because I'm a child and I just like to watch all these games on my wall here. And it's just I'm watching the other games that are close, and I'm seeing these other fan bases sweat it out. I'm like, wow, my team's up by 28 points, and I'm just kind of just watching. I'm glancing at the other games. Like, I'm not stressed. I'm not yelling at the screen. I'm not like, oh my God.
It's beautiful.
And so, yeah, it really is. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe it might have been this day back in 2018 the Bears clinched the division and went to the playoffs. I think that might have been my Facebook memory. This was from 2018. Yeah. I'm in front of the TV going like this because I couldn't believe the Bears won the division. So it might have been 8 years, or what is it? Is it going on 8 years now? Yeah, 8 years since the Bears won the division. Is my math right? Yeah, that's wild. And so Alyssa, you talked a lot about plug and play people, and you talked about Gardner Johnson, but Aldo, you mentioned DeMarco Jackson. What can you talk to us a little bit about him?
Yeah, so I usually, when we do the show, I pick some clips for Danny to look at. Clearly, he's not here tonight, so I thought I'd still look at these clips of DeMarco Jackson. And the reason I picked DeMarco is, first of all, he won a game ball for his performance against the Cleveland Browns. Secondly, he exemplifies the depth that this team has. Third, I think his knowledge of Dennis Allen's defense is part of the reason why he had such an outstanding game against the Browns. So let's take a look at this first play, which is him on the blitz, Jackson on a blitz. And this is a very simple, but I thought he's unblocked, so it's not a very difficult play for him. But what impressed me about him was the tackling technique. How many times have we seen a Bears pass rusher unable to wrap the quarterback up and allow a quarterback to go unsacked when he should have been sacked? This was just, to me, it was beautiful, and I wanted to make sure that we gave him props for that. The second play was a pass defended, and take a look at him here in the middle linebacker position, how he just sways and keeps his eye on that Harold Fanning, the rookie Fanning, I think his name is, and just does an excellent job of defending that pass. We are suspecting that Tremaine Edmonds is going to come back, so they'll probably ramp Edmonds up and still give DeMarco a number of snaps in that position. But it's good to know that the position has been in good hands and will continue to, in case Tremaine can't play 100% of the defensive snaps. And of course, Coach Ben Johnson called this the key play of the game because it truly changed momentum. It's early in the second half. The Bears are up 14-0, and DeMarco reads the play brilliantly. And I think Dennis Allen should get a lot of credit because he has said we teach our guys to get into the best position to make a play. So this guy has been studying tape. He knew that slant was coming, and he's following the guy in motion. But look at him, read eyes, and quickly get into that position, get his hands up on the ball, and come up with the interception. And the Bears then scored a touchdown immediately afterwards. It was a thing of beauty. I am so happy that DeMarco Jackson is a part of this team and that we can rely on him in case TJ Edwards goes down again. Or if Tremaine Edmonds, that's big because you need good depth in order to succeed in the playoffs.
That pick was beautiful. I could watch that on loop over and over and over. Great play there by Jackson. Alyssa, we're talking about depth, and the Bears got a good shot in the arm of the cornerback position with Jalen Johnson returning to the lineup and making a pretty big impact in his first game back for the Chicago Bears. Can you talk us a little bit about what he brings as he's returning and what we can expect with him getting ramped back up into the lineup?
Yeah, when you look at like the injuries, and it started even before training camp, right? When Jalen Johnson went down and, didn't think it was going to be too much, but that really lingered. And then he went down again in week 2. But, getting him back in December has been a huge boost. And he's not even 100% yet, as we've seen. It took him a couple weeks. He was getting ramped up. But last week, it kind of felt, it felt for the first time he's getting closer to his old self, with that interception, which that was an incredible play. There were 2 plays where I was like, oh gosh, it was the opposite. The first was that Jalen Johnson interception. I was like, oh God, that's a touchdown. And then, oh, nope, he took it. And then the DJ Moore touchdown, which I thought was an interception. But, with Jalen, he had groin surgery a couple months ago. So he is getting back into football shape. And when you look at the snap count specifically, he did see most of his action against the Packers a couple of weeks ago, where he played 66% of snaps. And last week, he was just on the field for 40.4% of the time, including when he got that interception. And you do have to wonder that might have had something to do with the Bears blowing out the Browns, and maybe they didn't want to risk things with Jalen, which is smart, because, hey, you are in a position for the playoffs, which is still crazy to say out loud. But I think, the biggest question and the hope is that Jalen can get back to maybe not 100%, but close to 100% in time for the playoffs if they happen to get there.
Oh, we're hoping they get there, and they're getting guys healthy at the right time, where other teams see some of their best players getting hurt at the worst possible time. But one thing that's going to remain pretty consistent is with it, as this Bears team goes, so does Caleb Williams, and vice versa. We were talking about his performances and how the team is getting better. I think you can say the same for Caleb Williams. Is Caleb peaking right now, Aldo? Is he picking at the right time, or is this just linear progress going through the Ben Johnson system?
I think he really is peaking at the right time. One of the things that I've kind of gleaned from the press conferences, listening to them all season long, from Caleb and Declan Doyle and Ben Johnson, is that they have basically groomed him to get better and better a little bit every week, with the timeline being that by the time the final month of the season is going, he should be there, meaning that he should know this offense as well as basically a rookie in this offense for the first year, know it as well as he can possibly know it, have command of the huddle, have command of what is going on in the play, and also start to feel comfortable where the accuracy becomes easier and he's not thinking as much. And I think the evidence is there, certainly in the second half of the Green Bay game, certainly what we saw against Cleveland. And I just got a gut feeling that he's going to have an outstanding rest of the regular season. And hell, it helps if Parsons not on the field Saturday night. So yeah, I think he's going to have an outstanding season, and he's peaking right when we need him to.
Do we have video about Ben Johnson talking about that, Aldo? Because we throughout this entire season, we've dissected everything Ben Johnson has said, and we're trying to get into the root of all this messaging. But what do we have as far as the most recent description of Caleb Williams from Ben Johnson?
Yeah, this is Ben Johnson talking about his play calling early in the game. There's been a lot of talk about Caleb's accuracy not being quite what it should be early in the game, and that he needs time to kind of ramp up and find his accuracy. And I think that what he said here should give us all a little some valuable information as we see him play moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes they're the simpler variety. Other times we're going to be aggressive, and he embraces that. He, like I told you last week, he says, you call it and I'll make it work. And he has a lot of confidence in himself. That's a big part of what we do in that pregame routine, is making sure that, the first series isn't a warm-up series. We're starting hot. We talk about offensive philosophy wise, 65 to 70 bullets in a game. And we can't afford to waste any of those plays just trying to get the engine started. We got to start off guns a-blazing, and I think he really embodies that mentality.
John, keep in mind that when those first 3 plays against the Browns, there was a dropped pass in that sequence. So it wasn't him, doing anything, him being Caleb doing anything wrong. And I've come to appreciate Ben Johnson's aggressive play calling. He's throwing guys into the deep part of the water, but he's cognizant of whether they can handle it or not. So we should all be really pleased.
Absolutely. And we're talking about Caleb getting hot, but also something that got hot throughout that game was the chemistry between him and DJ Moore, something that's been under the microscope as well for the past few weeks. And Moore comes in with 4 catches and 69 yards, but also 2 touchdowns to add to that. Alyssa, well, one of those touchdowns, one of the most ridiculous throws I've ever seen on a football field, which they're still showing on highlight shows to right now. But how important is it that he gets that chemistry with DJ Moore going? Because we're not really sure of what the Roma Dunze injury looks like. We're not sure how banged up Luther Burden is. How important will it be to make sure that DJ Moore and Caleb Williams are on the same page moving forward into this home stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at this Bears offense this season, there's a lot to love about what's come out of it and what Ben Johnson's been able to do. But for a while, it's kind of felt like DJ Moore hasn't really had a place in this offense. He's been a non-factor. It's kind of like, they haven't really known what to do with him. There are so many mouths to feed in this offense, which is also part of it. So I think that, DJ coming out in a game where Roma Dunze gets injured during warmups, Luther Burden goes down in the second half, DJ really stepped up. And I think that this is that's big, because I think this game gave him confidence. And now I think that, he's back to that old playmaking DJ that we've seen. I think that with those injuries, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit here, DJ Moore becomes one of the most important pieces on that offense. Because if, Rome and Luther both can't go, he's going to be that number one guy. And that the Packers and the Niners and the Lions, depending how far down you want to go, they're going to be keying in on him. But it was really good to see him also get a game ball, in that post-game locker room, because, he's like, about time. It really felt like this could be a turning point for him. And again, just like Ben said before, they're playing their best ball in December. And I think that we're finally seeing DJ get back to his old self, which is going to be huge for this offense.
And if I can add, John, that it's a message to the opposing team that DJ Moore still has it, that he can be depended on, that he can make great plays, great catches, score touchdowns, and so forth. So it's another thing for teams to worry about once they get everybody back, and that DJ is no longer going to be ignored. I had this theory. It was stupid and silly, but that Caleb was mad at DJ. I'm not going to throw you the ball. You acted, your body language last year really upset me and so forth. Clearly, that's not true. But whatever it is that's happened between Caleb and DJ, it looks like they are on the same page now and making great plays together.
Yeah, and that's going to be very important as they hit the back end of the season. And Alyssa, the common theme with a lot of teams right now is injuries and the attrition, and how you're going to fill a lot of these spots. And there's 2 wide receivers for the Bears right now that are banged up, Roma Dunze and Luther Burden. Do we know anything about these injuries and how long some of these guys might be out? As you see the injury report here for the audio audience, Andrew Billings did not practice Tuesday, neither did Luther Burden, Roma Dunze. Let's see who did. Tyson Bajan's sick. I guess Cole Kmet, Homer Edmonds.
It's going on in that locker room.
Yeah. So, what's going on right now, Alyssa? Tell us, and we'll start with the wide receivers.
Yeah, outside of the illnesses, no. Obviously, Roma Dunze's had that lingering foot injury, for, several weeks now. And just when it kind of seemed that he was primed to make his return last week against the Browns, which, I mean, I was on the side of maybe, you rest him, give him another week, because that Packers game is going to be more important. You probably don't need him as much for that game. And he suffers, he re-aggravates that foot injury during warmups, which it was the second time in 2 weeks that has happened to a Bears player. It happened with Kyler Gordon and that groin injury, which I think, when we get to the end of the season, guys, we're going to really need to talk about this strength and conditioning staff, because the amount of groin and hamstring injuries this season has just been, it's unacceptable. Like they need to have some discussions at the end of the season. But going back to, Roma Dunze, both him and Luther Burden were listed as non-participants, as you saw during a walkthrough practice here on Tuesday. Ben Johnson said that Burden is day-to-day, which is more encouraging. There's a possibility that he could suit up Saturday against the Packers, and you would absolutely love to have one of your young, just emerging receivers out there alongside DJ Moore. I'm a little concerned, guys, about Dunze. It feels like they might have rushed him back, in those frigid conditions when he then got injured in warmups. And, Ben Johnson was saying that, quote, all options are on the table with Rome. So he wouldn't necessarily rule out sidelining him, but, for a potential return in the playoffs, which is crazy again that we're thinking playoffs. But I think into Saturday's game against the Packers, you would really like at least one of Odunze or Burden to suit up. But right now, I feel like Burden probably has the best chance, but it still feels like he's going to be a game time decision.
Just a little story for you. I'm in my and listen, I realize that there's nothing more exciting than your own fantasy team and nothing less exciting than somebody else's fantasy team. But just a quick story is that I'm in my playoffs for fantasy football, and I had Rome Odunze in there because he didn't even have an injury designation by his name. And as they're like kicking,
me too.
As they're kicking the ball in the air, they're like, "Oh, by the way, Rome Odunze is inactive." I'm like, "What?" And just to follow up on that, I won by 1 point. I won 143 to 142. I'm in the semifinals. I know I'm going to drop a banner later on. Everyone's going to there's a parade. It's going to be a big deal. I made the semifinals. But
the first of 2 championships, John. The first of 2 to happen this year.
You're right. Well, listen, it was an all-around good day. I won my fantasy playoff game, and the Bears won, and I still won even though I had Rome Odunze in my starting lineup. So,
did you win, Alyssa? Did you win?
No, I did not have the same luck as John.
Oh. That's sad.
I was lucky enough to
at least one of us won. That counts.
Bo Nix and Trey McBride carried me to victory. That's what I needed that day. So I had a nice week there overall. I wasn't screaming too
Congrats.
much. Thank you, Alyssa. Let's move to the run game because DeAndre Swift is really starting to hum in this Ben Johnson offense. He's top 10 in a few categories. Do you consider him a top 10 back in the league?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I mean, again, kind of going back to my common theme, why not? I do feel like I owe an apology to DeAndre Swift. I remember when we were getting on this show and kind of, especially the first month, right, when the run game was really struggling. And, we were pointing the finger at DeAndre Swift, part of it. But what he's been able to accomplish and how he's thrived in this offense since the bye week when they got the run game going and this offensive line is gelling, it's just been nothing short of impressive. I mean, he's had, 3 100-yard rushing games this season, which he had 1, I believe, all last year. And he's exceeded 80 plus in 6 games. And I think that, he's Kyle Monangai has been amazing as well. But I think, DeAndre Swift has just really set the tone on offense here in this number 2 rushing attack. The Bears are averaging over 150 rushing yards a game. And he just looks like he is perfect for this Ben Johnson offense. And he didn't look like it earlier in the year. So it's really good. Again, just like with DJ Moore, who came under some criticism, DeAndre Swift, who got off to a rough start and had a rough year last year. It's really good to see him thriving as well. And you look at the running backs in the league and, he has more rushing yards, than quite a lot of than Breece Hall and Christian McCaffrey. And you're like, yeah, it's an interesting question. Perhaps I think that you could pencil him in for as a top 10 running back for now. I mean, I just think what him and Kyle Monangai are doing in this rushing attack has just been really impressive in this offense. I feel like Ben Johnson, this is what he wants. He's got his running back duo here in Chicago. We'll see if we'll see, because Swift has 1 more year left of his deal after this year. So, but for right now, I think that as Swift is playing now, I think that he's a top 10 running back in the league.
And listen, Aldo, this is how quickly things change, because we were talking about, oh man, they didn't get a running back early in the draft. They got sniped in the first round, the second round, third round. They couldn't get the guy they wanted. Are they going to trade for someone? Do they need to go out and get Nick Chubb? They got to go trade for Alvin Kamara. Do they got to go trade for this guy? And listen, I perpetuated that myself. I was one of those blowhards that was talking about that. I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't. And then all of a sudden, it's the backbone of their offense now with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, a 7th round pick. Crazy how things can change so quickly. And although I think you have a little bit of video of is it Ben Johnson talking about DeAndre Swift's season?
Yep, indeed. Here comes. This is Coach Ben Johnson.
He's really embraced what we're trying to do. He's got some familiarity with the running style that we need from that running back position is taking a little bit of time just for the O-line and the backs to all get on the same page. But since the bye week, I feel like we've been unified and everyone understands what the intent is. And so he's very disciplined on his landmarks, probably the most disciplined I've seen him be since he's been in his career now, just staying right on the track and trusting the blocking up front and helping set up some of those blocks. I think we saw last week him take that game to the next level where he's able to make some of those tackles on the second and third level miss and become really explosive big gains for us. And so that's what he's always had in his body, and that's what we'll continue to need from here on out.
Aldo, I'll ask you, how important and how impressed are you with DeAndre Swift from going to a guy where people are like, when can they cut this guy, to, wow, look what he's doing in this Ben Johnson offense?
Yeah, I'm super impressed. And, I was never down on DeAndre Swift, but I always thought, like, there were a couple of seasons when he was with Detroit where he wasn't able to play the entire schedule. So I was concerned that perhaps he couldn't handle a 17-game regular season schedule, and to rely on a rookie as the main backup, I was concerned about that. But here's, I think, the underreported story on this, and I know some people have talked about this, is Ben Johnson is a genius at diagramming running plays. And I'm not a big X's and O's guy. I like to dabble in it a little and learn a little bit, but I have seen blocking schemes out of the Chicago Bears this season that I have never seen in my life with any team. These double team blocks. It sometimes looks like they've got 8 offensive linemen up there because they're doubling down on the front 3 linemen, the front 4 linemen on all plays. And, just something as simple like when they were playing Green Bay and again, the Cleveland Browns, they dropped the 2 tight ends back into the backfield. Cole Kmet called it the bully formation. They basically put it in to deal with the pass rushers that the Packers have, but they've employed it now in their run game, and it's been very successful. I think that part of the reason DeAndre Swift is a top 10 back and Kyle Monanga is having an incredible season has to do with Ben and his offensive coaching staff scheming up a blocking system, and now the offensive line and the running backs, like Ben said in that soundbite, all understanding how it's done and are executing it to perfection. That's the glorious thing for me, and again, just kind of underlines what a great head coach can do for a football team.
Yeah, it's been carrying the offense. It's been the backbone of the offense, and it's allowed Caleb Williams to develop at a normal rate rather than having to put the entire game on his shoulders and just trying to play hero ball. He has a solid run game and a solid offensive line to help him through that process. Now, we're going to change gears, and we're going to go to your favorite topic, Aldo.
Thank you.
Special teams. Let's talk special teams. And I love our rundowns because I read them in advance, but not too much in advance because I like to have organic reactions to some of this stuff. And it's like, are special teams concerns over? Why in the hell would they be over? No.
This is the Bears.
Listen, we can. I like what Duvernay is doing in their return game. He's helping the Bears out with field position. But Aldo, how do you feel about Cairo Santos? Because he missed a 35-yarder in this game against the Browns. And listen, I was usually okay sacrificing, knowing that Santos doesn't have a very big leg. He's not going to be able to kick you the 60-yarders or 55-yarders a lot of the times. And so, but I could take solace in knowing that if it's 45 and under, it's almost automatic. But we're getting into playoff weather. We're gonna if they have a home playoff game or they're going to Green Bay or they gotta go play outside. It's not gonna be perfect conditions. I know it was cold in Soldier Field. It was windy, but that's what it's gonna be for the rest of the year. So and now you have kickers like in Dallas, Aubrey. If you get to midfield, you're basically in field goal range. If you get to the 45-yard line, you got a chance. And so, are you and I know I am getting the growing concerns about, oh man, if there's a big kick outside that is going to seal a playoff spot or seal a playoff game or what have you, what is your level of concern?
Well, I got to tell you, I was feeling pretty good about special teams until the pre-show when the three of us touched on the subject, and I'm like, "Holy cow!" They're bringing down my mojo. Maybe I'm wrong for
That's
not
that
being
Bears
as concerned.
PTSD we've been talking about. That PTSD
Yeah.
is real.
I kind of overlooked the Santos missed field goal because of the cold weather, because of the conditions, and it does seem like every other game he has a bad kick, whether it's the really bad kickoff where it went out of bounds. I think it was against Green Bay or something like that. But I have detected improvements in the special teams overall, and I don't think it is like I'm not on the let's throw Hightower out on his ass at the end of the season bandwagon anymore. Now, I could change my mind. I change my mind frequently about things, but I just feel like this team is getting better. We also have to understand that because all of the injuries on this team, Hightower has had to deal with a revolving door of guys coming in at special teams. But I think he's kind of cracked the code a little bit. And I think I've talked about this in the barroom before. I think that Ben Johnson has been Hightower's toughest critic. And Hightower's demeanor at press conferences now is totally different. He's not even, despite the fact that he was coaching losing teams, he always seemed kind of a jovial guy. He's much more serious now. And I wonder if that's because Ben is saying, this is unacceptable. You got to clean this up. And it goes all the way back down to that early season game, the opening game against the Vikings when Hightower told Ben what to do on that special team. And Ben, relied on him and it screwed up opportunities to win that game. So I just feel like Hightower and special teams are getting better. And I'm hoping, as a fan, that we've seen the worst of special teams play, and the remainder of the season we'll start to see better and better special teams play.
The eternal optimist, Aldo Gandia, reporting for the Barroom Network. Now let's go ahead. Alyssa, I believe you are over in reality now. Can you give us a report from there?
Over here in reality, anytime Cairo Santos gets up to kick, I'm nervous. Even if it's not like a meaningful kick. Oh, man. Yeah, no, I'm not as confident as Aldo. But I didn't realize, I was a little nervous, but after our pre-show discussion, I'm even more nervous because somehow someone brought up Cody Parkey and I don't know. And now I'm just like, I was like, what if we get to the playoffs and you have to make a kick? I do not feel confident whatsoever. He could make the kick and that'd be great, but I have no confidence. I'm hiding behind the wall. I'm in the next room peeking out, watching. I still remember from even when Jake Moody was kicking and kicked the game winner against Washington. I was hiding in the other room. It's just again, that Bears PTSD, special teams. I feel like, remember when special teams was the biggest and kicker was the biggest concern? Luckily, those days are gone. But yeah, no, over here in reality, I'm terrified if a game's going to come, especially if Saturday's game has to come down to a Cairo Santos field goal. Not super confident.
If I remember correctly, Alyssa, it might have been your first show because you started the year after 2018, after the 2018 run, yes. Right? 2019. So I think the first show we ever did together was kind of a preview show, and we were talking that the Bears were a kicker away from being a Super Bowl team.
Yes.
and then the wheels started falling off of everything. I was like, oh, remember those days when we thought we were just a kicker away? Man, that was fun. So I don't want to have those conversations again because I feel like we were talking special teams every week, whether it was Connor Barth or I think they had Nick Fulkin for a little bit, or Elliott Fry, Joey Sly. I'm looking at just
stop it. You're killing me.
I'm looking at kickers. But at any rate, listen, I know Cairo has been reliable, but whenever you don't have that big leg, you better be accurate from a certain yard line in, and it's been a little less consistent than it normally is. So yeah, my panic meter does rise a little bit because the margins are so slim when it comes to these games they're going to play. Plus, if they get into the playoffs, the margins are even slimmer. So you're going to need a good kicker, and you're going to need a guy that you can rely on. So, okay.
Lovely.
Is there anything else, Aldo? Is there a gunner that you want to talk about? I've never seen bigger legs. I've seen bigger legs.
Josh Blackwell, shout out. Josh Blackwell, shout out.
Oh, yeah. Aldo, is there a gunner you want to talk about, or the holder or the long snapper? I know we should probably just have a full-on special teams show. I think before you take off, you're muted, so make sure you change that.
I actually spent some time. You guys are gonna think I'm sick, watching the all 22 special teams. Yeah, and so what I saw was Kevin Hardy playing outstanding ball. Our guy that we just did tape on, DeMarco Jackson, he's out there on special teams running gung ho. The very next play, he's intercepting a pass. And so these guys are digging deep. Everybody has bought in. And so they're doing double duty and so forth. I get into these I'm wearing blinders, and I'm such a Bears fan. I'm forgiving everything that's happened in the past or forgetting it. And I'm just seeing improvement, and I hope I continue to see it. But no, I'm done with special teams. Let's move on.
Yes.
Next on the Barroom Network is Special Teams Hour with Aldo Gandia.
Yeah, a whole special teams hour. And you're gonna see, you think there's people tuning out now, or wait until you put that out in front of everybody.
Yeah, a bunch of East European soccer players are tuning in to listen to that show.
Yes. Welcome to the kicking hour, real football taking place. So let's switch gear to the game that everyone's got pinned now. They're in. I guess this is considered prime time Saturday night. I think they flexed it to the hour, right? They flexed it up to the prime time game, or the 8:00 game on the East Coast at least. Talking about the Packers, obviously they suffer a huge setback with Micah Parsons tearing his ACL. You hate to see that, regardless of what team it's on, regardless of anything. You just hate to see injuries like that. Micah Parsons, I actually covered him in high school whenever he was out here in central Pennsylvania. He was cool. So I've been following his career the whole way from high school through Penn State to the pros. Just a phenomenal athlete, a freak athlete. But you hate to see that happen. But it is a big break for the Bears when it comes to not having to worry about him coming after Caleb Williams. So, Alyssa, how big of a break is this to not have Micah Parsons on the other side trying to come at Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's massive. I mean, the reason that the Packers went out and made that move to trade for Micah Parsons was because he elevated their defense just incredibly in what they can do in getting after the quarterback. And I feel like now with Parsons out, that defense, it's good, but it's not great, right? They're not the same unit that they were when Parsons is out there. And we saw, even though, Parsons didn't get a sack on Caleb in that first meeting, I mean, he was chasing him all over the field, and I think that when you look at that first game, Caleb had that rough first half. I feel like maybe like now, especially with Micah out and some of the pass rush concerns that the Packers have now, I think that maybe we could see Caleb play that complete game with that, like look more like second half Caleb for production wise, throughout the entire game. So, I mean, you hate to see it to, a great player in the league, but I mean, the timing, and like we said earlier in the show, the Bears are getting healthier. Other teams are suffering injuries at this time. It's, it feels like the Bears are trending in the right direction. It's a big break. Now the Bears need to take advantage, because I feel like now there's no reason why they should not win this game on Saturday night.
Aldo, I'm going to get your opinion on this, but I believe you also have some video of, is it Rashawn Gary talking about Micah Parsons?
Yeah, this is immediately after the game, an hour or so after the injury to Parsons. And I was reminded of this because I was watching one of the morning sports talk shows, and the I forgot who it was that said it. You should have seen that locker room, how dejected they were. So I found this Rashawn Gary talking about Parsons' injury.
What's been going through your mind since you saw the injury, and where to go from here?
hurt to see. We'll be missed on this defense. Y'all all know his impact. But that's give us, more guys up front, more opportunities when they come to, rush cause havoc. But, with his absence, we got to step up front.
Are you able to speak?
I mean, talk about a guy that's sad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough to watch. You're out there and you're playing with these guys, and you have one of your teammates go down, and it's a player of a caliber of a Michael Parsons, and it's a serious injury on a non-contact thing. That's a big blow, not just because of the lineup, but I think mentally not having them out there with you probably is a pretty big blow as well. Aldo, what do you think that this is going to mean for them?
It means a lot because everyone's been talking that this Packers team is probably the most Super Bowl prepared team because Jordan Love has been playing well. He's starting to look like he's capable of taking a team to the Super Bowl. And the defense was playing at a level with Parsons in. Parsons was able to disguise some of the problems they have in the defensive backfield because he was hurrying quarterbacks and pressures. He had 12 and a half sacks, but the pressures that he had, he's accumulated with the Packers. That was a monumental in helping the defensive backfield. So I think it's a monumentally deflating loss for that team. And I'm with Alyssa and I'm with you and everyone else. We hate to see guys from the opposing team, get injured. I'm of the opinion I want to beat a team when they're at their best. But am I going to cry? Am I going to cry? No, I cry at Caleb's.
Yeah, well,
it won't make that Packers win any less.
Exactly.
No, it sucks, but it's not. But I'm not going to take any less solace in if the Bears win. I'm still going to be just as happy.
Well said. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll be just as happy with the win. Everyone is banged up. Big blow to Green Bay. It sucks. You'd hate to see it, but you know what? The Bears still got to play the Packers, and it's still Bears-Packers. And the Packers are dealing with some of their own wide receiver injuries. So listen, do we know anything about what's going on is it Christian Watson, who I think it was a chest / we weren't really sure, and then they said it wasn't that serious. What do we know about the Packers injuries status?
Yeah, it's Christian Watson suffered like a chest / shoulder injury against the Broncos. Just again, it was a devastating day for the Packers injury wise, but it does sound like he avoided a serious injury, and there's even a belief that he might be able to play Saturday against the Bears, but Matt LaFleur said that they're not quite sure that's the case. It does sound like it's going to come down to a game time decision, but I would be surprised if he's out there. Just personally, if you remember, Christian Watson suffered an injury in that Week 18 game against the Bears last year. When they went out there and beat the Packers for the first time in a while. So, I think with Christian Watson, what people have been saying, it's more than just a pain tolerance thing with him, with that chest and shoulder injury. It's more like a functional thing. And, that would just be a devastating blow for the Packers because with Watson out there, he's just been on fire. We saw what he did against the Bears 2 weeks ago. If he's not able to go, I mean, I think, they had Jaden Reed and they have some playmakers out there, but Christian Watson has just been huge for that Packers offense. So if the Bears can dodge a bullet there, again, it's another thing where you got to go out and win the game there and even the season series. Yeah,
and apparently LaFleur said that if they were practicing today, that Josh Jacobs would not have practiced today. How big of a blow? Alyssa, what do we know about that? And that's a big key component to their offense as well.
Absolutely. And I think when you look at, the box score, from that game 2 weeks ago, I mean, the rushing numbers don't really jump out, but I think it was the runs that Jacobs made and when he did, including that just devastating run in the second half that led to, I believe it was that touchdown after the Bears had tied it to give the Packers the lead, and the Bears weren't able to come back from that. So it was that game sealing touchdown run. So I think if they don't have their top guy there, I mean, that's going to be another big blow. It's going to fall. It's going to put the pressure on Jordan Love there, which if the Bears can get their pass rush going and put a little pressure on him, we've seen that he can turn the ball over. He threw a pick the last time they met 2 weeks ago. He had a couple last week against the Broncos. If these players aren't suiting up for the Packers, again, the Bears really need to take advantage there. But those are just three of, quite a few injuries that the Packers suffered in that loss against Denver last week.
And Aldo, I know that the Bears and Packers played less than 2 weeks ago as of today, but the teams could look a little different going into this game. What did we learn about the loss in Week 14, and what might be the key to getting over the hump this week?
It's clear. It's pretty obvious, right? You got to play 4 quarters. You cannot let the Packers get out to a lead. Jordan Love is a good quarterback. There's no doubt about it. But I think you can pressure him into mistakes. But why get to a point where you're giving him a 14, 21-point lead and you've got to scratch and claw your way back? You can't do that. You got to come out. This game, Saturday night, the Bears have to come out with points on their first couple of series. A field goal and a touchdown, a field goal, whatever. They've got to be competitive from the opening whistle all the way to the last whistle. And they got to take advantage, frankly, of these injuries, meaning that Christian Watson, the biggest thing with him is the Bears don't really have a defensive back that I can think of that matches up well with him because he's so big and so fast. C.J. Gardner certainly couldn't match up with him. And so if he is gone, you got to take advantage now of that. With Parsons gone, that should allow Ben to do some more creative things with the offense and not account for that pass rusher on every down and having Caleb, identify where Parsons is and so forth. So that's important. One other thing, J2K just mentioned it. It's caught out of the corner of my eye. Zach Tom, their premier right tackle, is also out, and he really is their best offensive lineman. Those guys, Jacobs, Tom, the safety, Williams, Parsons, and Watson, if all those guys miss, we know for sure Parsons is, but if all those guys miss, that's a decided advantage for the Chicago Bears, and they have to take advantage of that, and I think they will.
Alyssa, given what we know about the Packers injuries and the Bears injuries, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here. Who do you think needs to have a big game, or at least a productive game from the Bears, in order for them to win? Is it going to be a running back? Is it going to be offensive line? Is it going to be somebody in the secondary to prevent those big passing plays from Green Bay that kind of ate up the Bears last time? Who do you think needs to have a good performance in order for the Bears to come out victorious?
I mean, I think on offense, is it obvious? I know Aldo talked about it a little bit, but I want to see Caleb Williams come out here and have the game of his life against the Packers. We talked about, and Aldo said the key to this, and that's exactly what I was going to say, is the Bears need to get off to a fast start here and play a complete game. That's something that Ben Johnson's talked about, something Caleb Williams has talked about. And I know they didn't score in their first possession against the Browns last week, but then they put together consecutive scoring drives. So they really need to get off to that quick start, and they can't be trailing 2 scores going into the second half. And I think that, Caleb Williams needs to have that second half he had, minus that last interception, for a complete game. But at receiver too, I'm looking at Zacchaeus, assuming that Rome Odunze and DJ Moore, guys. So assuming Rome Odunze and Luther Burden don't play, I would like to see, DJ is going to get all of, the attention. I would like to see him have a repeat performance, but, Zacchaeus is going to be someone else who's going to have to really step up as well. And he's had some drop issues here this season and, got surpassed by Luther Burden. And on defense, I really want to see Montez Sweat just kind of come out and just dominate. We're talking about the Packers and the injuries, to Zach Tom. I feel like there are some opportunities, for him to step up here. And, I want to see Nashawn Wright again, get another interception. I want to see this defense get an early takeaway. I feel like at their, when they have 2 or more takeaways, the Bears have 1. It's just the key to their success here. I want to see an early takeaway because it feels like when they get an early one, they all kind of build, right? And then they really jump out to that momentum and that lead. And I would like to see them be leading the game going into halftime there. But I really want to see Caleb step up in this game and Montez Sweat as well.
Yeah, I was going to go with, I saw a lot of people saying Sweat in the chat, and that's exactly who I was thinking. Get an early pass rush if you can establish a pass rush and get after Jordan Love, because while he is a very talented quarterback, he has been known to throw a couple of bad picks every once in a while. And if they can get that going and get a few takeaways and get things going in their way, the Bears could be the one playing from ahead. And then it's all about the run game and bleeding the clock and just pounding the defense with that run game with Monango Monangai and Swift. So I want to see a good pass rush from the Bears early and let Love. He just can't, sit back there, take a nap, have a sandwich, and then deliver a long ball. So that I want to see some people in the backfield. Aldo, who do you think needs to have a good performance from the Bears in order for them to win on Saturday?
Well, the rookies, Loveland and Monangai, are two guys that I'm predicting are going to have good days, really good days. Loveland, he's probably going to be leaned on with the injuries at the wide receiver position. So, and I love the kid. I mean, the guy is really starting to feel comfortable in the offense. He not only can help in gaining yards and getting us into field position, but his blocking game. A lot of people were concerned about how I didn't study his blocking when he was at Michigan, but I'll tell you this, maybe Alyssa did. I'll tell you this, that guy, when he's been a pro, he's been blocking his butt off. He is a good blocker. So I think Monangai and Loveland, and then I think that Austin Booker on defense, I think he's got like 3 sacks in the last 4 games since he's been back or something like that. I think Booker could have and will have a good game in harassing Jordan Love. And I saw somebody just said something about Grady Jarrett. Grady has started to play well. He got a sack last week, I think his first this season with the Chicago Bears. So he is starting to earn his paycheck. It was Squeegee that said he's got to earn his paycheck. I think he's starting to Squeegee, and I anticipate that he's going to be a force in the middle. So the veteran Jarrett, the young guy Booker, and then the 2 rookies on offense, I think are going to have good games and help the Bears to victory.
Let's hope so. It's going to be a really nerve-wracking, intense game on a Saturday. That's different. That's going to have a different
Saturday night.
Yeah. Oh man, you know how I feel about primetime games, and not even going to get into that. But let's go around the horn real quick. Aldo, what's going on over at the bar room? What do we got coming up in the coming days and weeks?
Well, I'll tell you, tomorrow I'm making my return over to Bare Their Souls. It starts at 8:30 p.m. Central. For the first 30 minutes, we just talk football. Daniken and myself, he always brings 5 thoughts, and he and I have conversations about them. It's either it's a mixture of what happened in the game prior and what's going to happen in the upcoming game. And then after that, at 8 p.m. is the official start of Bare Their Souls. Johnny Santucci always has a brilliant essay the first 5-10 minutes of the show called Bear State of Affairs. He'll do that. And then after that, it's just hilarity, fun, fart jokes and stuff like that. So beyond that, on Sunday, the Barfly Tailgate Show, John's got his weekend sports betting tips show on Friday. And what am I forgetting? Fantasy Football Goon Show. I think this will be their final show of the season coming up. And then next week, the schedule is up in the air with the holidays and so forth. But the best way to stay on top of stuff is subscribe to the channel, Barroom Network on YouTube or on your audio podcast. You'll get alerts whenever we have new programming for you.
Excellent. And Alyssa, this is kind of uncharted territory for you because usually we're talking about coaching candidates and who's getting fired and the worst of the worst. What are you covering nowadays now that the Bears are a contender?
I'm covering things that I would have covered in September, October that probably would have deviated from. We're getting you ready for the biggest game of the year for the Bears on Saturday in primetime against the Packers. Everything coming out of Hallis Hall, injury updates, which all eyes are going to be on Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. And and also, which is something I haven't been able to do, a playoff rooting guide where we're taking a look at who you need to be rooting for this weekend to help the Bears get to the playoffs and perhaps win the NFC.
I like that. I want to read that because I was when I was going through that playoff generator, I'm like, who do I need to be rooting for this week? And I'm looking through all the different scenarios. You got me covered. I don't got to do anything. All I got to do is read your content as per usual. So
and John, let me let everyone know that the Bears can clinch a playoff spot Sunday.
This week.
This is according to ESPN. A win and the Detroit loss against Pittsburgh, unlikely to happen. But if it does and the Bears win, they're in the playoffs, baby.
So
Could Aaron Rodgers help us?
Wouldn't that be nice?
There's something to think. I didn't
That
even
would be
consider that.
crazy.
Yeah, if the Bears win and the Steelers win, then all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers hands the Bears a playoff spot. So I guess we're Bears fans, and then I guess we're Steeler fans as well. It's going into the weekend.
You got to represent, John. You should. Is that game in Pittsburgh this week on Sunday?
It's in Detroit.
I might be in Detroit,
Detroit?
but I'll be in Pittsburgh whenever that game's going on. So I'll be around plenty of Steelers.
Go out to the bar,
Yeah,
put your Steelers shirt on, be like, hey, or put your Bears shirt. Go Steelers.
I will be sitting in my basement getting just attacked from a group chat. I feel
Your 3 TVs.
but I'll be cheering for him. You're right. I'll be cheering for him though. So that's gonna round out this episode of Buffone 55. I just want to thank everyone who was in the chat room, who was watching this live. The chat room's always really interesting because we went from having a big there's a big conversation about special teams to the best like brisket recipe that was going on or prime rib that was going on.
I need to see that.
Yeah, scroll up and check it out. I just love watching it because there's so much like side quests going on during our show, and then they come back and we all talk about the main point afterwards. You guys are the absolute best. I appreciate you. So whether this was your first time or your 55th time, we appreciate you tuning in, whether it's the live version, the podcast version, the audio version, or the video version, whether you're watching us on your laptop, on your phone, if you're somehow watching us on your Sega Genesis, I appreciate it. But that will do it for this episode of Buffone 55. Guys, the Bears, the Packers, the NFC North is up for grabs. It's all coming down on Saturday night. We'll see you next time right here on Buffone 55.
Goodbye, everyone.